Welcome back to the programme. First, to some of your stories in brief. We begin with the appeal court sitting in Owerri that's also confirmed the victory of Senator Rochas Okrocha in the February 23rd Imo West Senatorial District election. The chairman of the panel ruled that the appeal filed by Senator Osita Izunazo of the All Progressives Grand Alliance ABGA and Jones Oyeriri of the People's Democratic Party against the victory of Senator Rochas Okrocha lacked merit. And also Senator Ojus Okalu won at the Court of Appeal. The court in the judgment delivered dismissed the application filed by the PDP candidate for the Abia North Senatorial District, Mao Ohabunwa, against Mr. Kalu's victory. Reacting to the decision, Mr. Uzokalu says he has been vindicated by the appellate court. Elsewhere, the Court of Appeal sitting in Kaduna upheld the judgment of the Election Tribunal, affirming the election of Nasir El-Rufai as the duly elected governor of the state. In a unanimous judgment delivered by Justice Lumuyiwa Aburu, the appellate court upheld the judgment of the tribunal, which dismissed the petition of the candidate of the People's Democratic Party, Mr. Issa Ashiru, for lacking in merit. Elsewhere, the Federal High Court in Lagos fixed December the 5th to take arguments on whether or not 2 Ikoyi houses belonging to ex-Senate President Dr. Bukola Saraki should be permanently forfeited to the federal government. Justice Mohammed Lehman had on October 21 ordered the temporary forfeiture of the houses on number 17A, MacDonald Road, Ikoyi, to the federal government, and also ordered the EFCC to publish the temporary forfeiture order in a national newspaper. Nigeria is still fighting off terrorism and insurgents in some parts of the northeastern region. But the president, Muhammadu Buhari, has said the ongoing crisis in the region demands unprecedented collaboration between the military and the humanitarian actors. Now, there have been tension between the CSOs and security apparatus, a relationship which deteriorated into full-blown impasse this year, which ultimately resulted to the suspension of activities of some NGOs by Operation Lafayette Dole Theatre Command. The Minister of Defense, Major General Bashir Magashi, retired, was speaking for the president when he visited Maiduguri, and he says there is the need to fix the dented relationship. Now, let's take a look at some of the humanitarian situations in that region. We have on the slide there 38 UN and NGOs workers were killed since 2011, 10 aid workers dying as a result of Boko Haram attacks in the last 11 months. Over 140,000 people displaced in 2019. That's the latest figure. About 3 million people living in extreme starvation in the northeast region. Also, 7 million people estimate in need of humanitarian assistance. Well, joining us for more, talking about these issues, Professor Sunday Ochoche. He's the Executive Secretary, Presidential Committee on the Victim Support Fund. And also we have our security expert, Mr. Kabiru Adamu. We'd like to welcome you both to the program. Let me start with you, Mr. Adamu. I mean, we heard just yesterday about the botched attack in Damaturu, Yobe State. I mean, would you call that a success? Are we winning the war against terror? The last time we heard a story coming from Yobe State, the Nigerian army tweeted that troops of the 120 Task Force Battalion in Goniri made a success with the special forces that were deployed to that area. So tell us, would you call it a success? Are we winning the war against terror?
Yeah, there are very important developments. The most recent one is the establishment of the super camps by the Nigerian army, and we've seen remarkable, impact of that. One of them is the morale of the troops have been, resuscitated, if I use that word. We've seen a reduction, actually, in the number of attacks affecting the entire northeast region. Unfortunately, however, we have seen new threats emerging. One of those new threats is increase in attacks along, highways linking major cities in the country, in the northeast region, as an example. The attack on Damaturu is not surprising, given the ferocity of, or the intensity of counter-insurgency operations in the location. We've seen a dispersal of both the Jamaat al-Islam al-Dawat wal-Jihad and the Islamic State in West Africa province towards the southern part of Borno, and of course down into Yobe State, as well as the link road between Damaturu and Maiduguri. So that's not surprising, really, the attack yesterday. It's also very important to mention that the attack was successfully repelled. Based on the records I have, not a single local resident was affected by the attack. So yeah, there have been some progress there and there. Are we winning the war in the insurgency? To an extent, yes. Are there things that we need to do? Yes, there are a lot more that needs to be done. The focus on kinetic operations is too much. There needs to be more funding for the soft component of the counter-insurgency approach, de-radicalization.
Hold on a moment, Mr. Kabir Adamo, hold on a moment. Let's go to Professor Choche. And this is asking the relationship now between CSOs and security apparatus. We hear the Minister of Defense saying that the relationship between the humanitarian and security actors responding to the humanitarian crisis is fraught with mistrust. What do you think the situation is right now in the Northeast?
Thank you very much. Yeah, there have been challenges that we know about in the relationship between especially the security forces and a number of CSOs, NGOs in the Northeast. Let me note that this is nothing new or strange. The challenges of managing the relationship between security agencies and CSOs, humanitarian organizations, has been a long one. If we recall that even during the Nigerian Civil War, what we have today as Doctors Without Borders, which is today a very respectable international humanitarian agency, started during the Nigerian Civil War. And their role in the Civil War was most annoying to the federal side, very welcoming to the Biafran side. And because they come in with the intention of being neutral, being apolitical, and trying to address whatever the humanitarian challenges are, irrespective of what the challenges are, it tends to be very difficult to manage. Elsewhere, even the UN peacekeeping operations have face such challenges, where the role of international agencies in particular have been very, very difficult to manage for force commanders. So it's nothing really new.
Because we're coming to a close of the program, briefly tell us if you think that the future of that relationship will be better and, you know, its efforts in the humanitarian crisis in that area. If you can briefly tell us so we can get to Mr. Kabir.
That relationship is of absolute necessity, building and cementing that relationship. Because like my colleague just said, in a conflict of this nature, you have to approach it from many sides. It cannot just be from the military approach. The military is very limited in its capacity to manage the humanitarian dimension. And the CSOs, many of whom are there trying to address those components, are very relevant to addressing the issues relating to health, to feeding, and a lot of other social challenges that conflicts tend to throw up. So that is very important. But however, there need to be more coordination in the way they manage things. There need to be more control in the way they manage things. A lot of the time, the agencies are there even without the knowledge of the state authorities to determine what exactly they are doing, who is where, and they could obstruct a lot of the operations on the side of the state. They themselves also tend to get themselves into crisis.
Your final 30 seconds with regards to the relationship, the synergy.
Yeah, the current Minister of Humanitarian Affairs, the engagement procedures she has initiated, I think they're very good. The Minister of Planning needs to ensure that the MOU signed between the Nigerian government and the various NGOs, both international and local, are observed. So I think that's the key, compliance. What kind of measures is the Nigerian government going to put in place to ensure that those MOUs are respected? Going forward, that's the area I think the government should focus on.
Brief, but we would like to thank you, Professor Sunday Churchill, Executive Director, Presidential Committee on Victim Support Fund and Security Expert, Mr. Kabir Adamu. Thank you so much for joining us. And just before we go, the federal government is insisting its anti-corruption crusade is still on. It says that money in excess of 200 billion naira has been recovered as final forfeitures and over 800 convictions secured in the last 1 year. And that's it on the program. Thank you for watching. I'm Millicent Walker. I'll see you soon.